Maya Rodriguez pressed her face against the small window of the transport shuttle and watched the massive space station grow larger with each passing second. The Galactic Naval Academy on Kepler Station looked like a giant metal flower floating in the darkness of space. Its silver petals were actually training facilities, dorms, and classrooms where the best young warriors from across the galaxy came to learn how to protect their worlds. She had dreamed of this moment for 3 years, ever since Earth had been accepted into the Galactic Alliance. Maya was the first human ever chosen to attend the Academy. Her hands shook slightly as she gripped her single travel bag. Everything she owned fit inside that one small bag. Back home on Earth, her family had saved every credit they could earn to help pay for her uniform and basic supplies. The shuttle docked with a soft thud that made Maya's stomach flutter. Around her, other new cadets gathered their belongings. She had been traveling with them for 2 days, but none had spoken to her. They whispered to each other in languages that sounded like music, clicking sounds, or electronic beeps. Maya only knew basic galactic standard, the common language used for official business. She stood up slowly, trying not to bump her head on the low ceiling. At 5 feet and 6 inches tall, she was shorter than most of the other beings on the shuttle. A creature that looked like it was made of blue crystal towered over her at nearly 8 feet. Another being seemed to float rather than walk, its body glowing with soft purple light. Maya felt very ordinary compared to them. The shuttle door opened with a hiss and Maya followed the group into the station. Her boots made loud clicking sounds on the metal floor while the other cadets moved silently. She tried to walk more quietly, but her heavy Earth-made boots were not designed for stealth. Several alien heads turned to look at her, their eyes curious and sometimes unfriendly. The corridor was enormous, with a ceiling so high that Maya had to crane her neck to see the top. Holographic displays showed information in dozens of languages, and soft music played from hidden speakers. The air smelled clean but strange, like flowers she had never encountered. Everything was so different from the cramped military base, where she had grown up on Earth. A group of older students stood near the entrance to the main academy building. They wore the dark blue uniforms that marked them as second- or third-year cadets. Their patches showed they came from worlds Maya had only read about in textbooks. One of them, a tall being with green skin and 4 arms, pointed at Maya and said something to his friends. They all turned to stare at her. Maya kept walking, pretending she had not noticed. Her face felt hot with embarrassment. She knew what they were probably saying. Earth was known throughout the galaxy as a death world, a planet so dangerous that most species could not survive there for more than a few hours. The gravity was too strong, the weather too violent, and the native life forms too aggressive. Most aliens thought humans were either very brave or very stupid to live in such a place. The new cadets were directed to a large assembly hall where hundreds of beings sat in rows of seats. Maya found an empty spot near the back and tried to make herself invisible. The cadet who sat next to her had pale blue skin and gills on the sides of her neck. She looked at Maya with large dark eyes and then quickly looked away. A massive figure walked onto the stage at the front of the hall. He was at least 9 feet tall with skin that looked like polished silver crystal. 4 eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern on his face, scanned the crowd. His uniform had so many medals and ribbons that Maya could not count them all. "Welcome to the Galactic Naval Academy," he said in a voice that echoed through the entire hall. "I am Commander Zethkar, your senior instructor. You have been chosen from millions of applicants across thousands of worlds. You represent the finest young minds and bodies in the known galaxy." Maya sat up straighter in her chair. She belonged here, even if she did not look like the others. "This academy has trained defenders of peace for over 500 years, Commander Zethkar continued. Our graduates protect trade routes, explore dangerous regions of space, and stand guard against threats that would destroy entire civilizations. The training you will receive here is not just about weapons and tactics. You will learn to think like a warrior, to lead others in battle, and to make decisions that could save millions of lives." The commander's 4 eyes seemed to find Maya in the crowd. She felt a chill run down her spine as he looked directly at her. "This year we welcome our first cadet from the world called Earth. The humans have recently joined our alliance, and we are curious to see what they can contribute to our forces. I expect all of you to treat Cadet Rodriguez with the same respect you would show any other student here." Every head in the hall turned to look at Maya. She felt her cheeks burning with embarrassment and tried to sink lower in her seat. Some of the aliens whispered to each other, and she caught a few words in Galactic Standard. "Primitive," said one. "Dangerous world," said another. "Why are they here?" asked a third. The blue-skinned cadet next to Maya leaned away from her slightly, as if she was afraid Maya might be contagious. Maya wanted to tell her that humans were not dangerous to friendly aliens, but she did not know how to say it in a way that would not sound defensive. Commander Zethkar raised one of his 4 hands, and the hall fell silent. "You will be divided into training groups of 20 cadets each. Your group will become your family for the next 4 years. You will eat together, train together, and graduate together. Some of you will form friendships that last for centuries. Others will discover rivalries that push you to become better warriors." He gestured to a group of older cadets who stood along the walls of the hall. "These are your senior students. They will help you learn the rules of the academy and show you to your dormitories. Remember, the first rule of the Galactic Naval Academy is that rank and species do not matter here. What matters is your skill, your courage, and your dedication to protecting innocent life." Maya hoped that was true, but the stares and whispers around her suggested that some cadets had not gotten that message. The assembly ended, and the new cadets were called forward in groups. Maya waited until her name was called, then walked to the front of the hall. A senior cadet with tentacles instead of arms checked her name off a list and handed her a datapad. "Dormitory 7, room 15, the senior cadet said in careful Galactic Standard. "Your belongings will be delivered within the hour. Classes begin at 0600 tomorrow." Maya nodded and took the datapad. The screen showed a map of the academy with a blinking dot marking her location and a path to her new home. As she walked through the corridors toward the dormitory section, Maya passed groups of new cadets who were already forming friendships. They laughed and chattered in their various languages, sharing stories about their home worlds and their hopes for the future. Maya walked alone, her footsteps echoing off the walls. She found Dormitory 7 and located room 15. The door opened automatically when she approached, revealing a small but comfortable space with a bed, a desk, and a storage locker. A window looked out onto the stars where she could see Earth as a tiny blue dot in the distance. Maya sat on the bed and opened her travel bag. Inside were a few personal items from home, including a photograph of her family and a small American flag that her grandfather had given her. He had been a soldier on Earth and had taught her that sometimes the smallest person in the room could surprise everyone. She placed the photograph on her desk and looked out at the stars. Tomorrow, her real training would begin. She would show these aliens that humans belonged in the galaxy, even if it took everything she had to prove it. Maya's first week at the Galactic Naval Academy proved harder than she had expected. Every morning at 6 o'clock, the lights in her room would turn on automatically, and a gentle voice would announce breakfast time. She would put on her new academy uniform, which felt stiff and uncomfortable compared to her old clothes from Earth, and walk to the dining hall. The dining hall was enormous, with tables that could seat thousands of cadets. Food dispensers lined the walls, offering meals from hundreds of different worlds. Maya had learned to stick to the basic protein bars and vitamin drinks that were safe for human consumption. The first day, she had tried some purple fruit that looked delicious, but had made her sick for hours. She always sat alone at a table, near the back of the hall. Other cadets would glance at her sometimes, whisper to their friends, and then look away quickly when she noticed them staring. Maya tried to smile and nod when other cadets looked her way, but they rarely smiled back. Her training group, Maya, was paired with 19 other first-year cadets from across the galaxy. There was Veltos, who came from an ocean world and had to wear a special breathing mask when not in water. His skin was blue-gray and covered with scales that changed color when he was nervous. There was also Quindal, a female from a high-gravity moon whose muscles were so developed that she could probably lift a small vehicle. Her people were known as excellent warriors, and she never let anyone forget it. The most difficult member of their group was Zixara, a being whose species could change the color and texture of their skin to blend into any environment. She was tall and thin with large golden eyes that seemed to see everything. Zixara came from a world where her people were the top predators, and she acted like she was still hunting prey, even at the academy. During their first combat theory class, instructor Haven asked each cadet to demonstrate a basic fighting technique from their home world. Velto showed how his people fought underwater, using flowing movements that looked like a deadly dance. Quindal demonstrated a series of powerful strikes that could crush stone. When it was Maya's turn, she showed a simple punching combination that her grandfather had taught her. The other cadets started to laugh. The sound echoed through the training room, making Maya's face turn red with embarrassment. "That is very interesting, Cadet Rodriguez," Instructor Haven said, though his tone suggested it was not interesting at all. "Your species still uses primitive contact fighting. How unusual." Zixara raised her hand. "Instructor, why would anyone punch something when you could use energy weapons or mental attacks? It seems so basic." More laughter filled the room. Maya wanted to explain that human fighting techniques had been developed over thousands of years and were actually very effective, but she could not find the right words in galactic standard. "All fighting techniques have their place, Instructor," Haven said diplomatically, "though some are certainly more advanced than others." After class, Maya walked alone to her next lesson while the other cadets formed groups and continued talking about the morning's demonstrations. She heard Veltos say something about Stone Age combat, and Quindal reply with a comment about evolutionary delays. Maya pretended not to hear them. The weapons training class was even worse. Each cadet was given a standard energy rifle used by Galactic Navy forces. The weapon was designed to be used by beings with advanced mental abilities, who could guide the energy blasts with their thoughts. Maya had no such abilities. She had to aim the old-fashioned way, using her eyes and hands. Her first few shots missed the target completely. The energy blasts flew wild, hitting the walls and ceiling of the training range. The other cadets watched with amusement as Maya struggled to understand how the weapon worked. "Perhaps we should give the human a simpler weapon," suggested Zixara loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Maybe a stick or a rock?" The laughter that followed was even louder than before. Even Veltos, who was usually quiet, made a sound that might have been his species' version of laughter. Maya gritted her teeth and tried again. This time, her shot hit the edge of the target. It was not a good hit, but it was better than missing completely. She practiced for the rest of the class while listening to the other cadets make jokes about human technology and intelligence. During the lunch break, Maya sat at her usual table and picked at her protein bar. The food tasted like cardboard, but it was safe for her to eat. She watched the other cadets in her training group sit together at a large table across the dining hall. They seemed to be having a great time, sharing food from their home worlds and telling stories that made them all laugh. A new student approached Maya's table. He was human, like her, with brown hair and nervous eyes. Maya had heard that another human had arrived at the academy, but this was the first time she had seen him. "Hi," he said quietly, looking around to make sure no one was watching. "I'm Ben Walker. I just got here yesterday." "Maya Rodriguez," she replied, grateful to finally talk to someone who spoke English. "Want to sit down?" Ben looked over at the other cadets, then back at Maya. He seemed torn between wanting to sit with his own species and not wanting to be associated with her problems. I already promised to sit with some guys from my dorm," he said. "Maybe later?" Maya nodded, trying not to show her disappointment. Ben walked away quickly and joined a table full of cadets from various worlds. Maya noticed that they welcomed him much more warmly than anyone had ever welcomed her. The afternoon brought physical training, which should have been Maya's best subject. Back on Earth, she had been an excellent athlete. She could run faster and longer than most of her friends, and she was stronger than anyone expected from someone her size. But the Academy's training course was designed for beings with abilities that humans did not possess. The obstacle course included sections that required flying, others that needed the ability to phase through solid objects, and still others that demanded telepathic communication with computer systems. Maya could only complete about half of the course using pure physical ability and determination. Zixara finished the course in record time, using her camouflage abilities to sneak past sensors and her natural climbing skills to scale walls that Maya could not even reach. When Maya finally completed the parts of the course she could manage, she was breathing hard and covered in sweat. "Not bad for a primitive species," Zixara said as Maya walked past her. "On my world, we would call that a decent warm-up exercise." The other cadets around her laughed again. Maya was getting tired of that sound. That evening, Maya sat in her room and tried to study for the next day's classes. The textbooks were written in Galactic Standard, which she could read but not quickly. Every few pages, she had to look up words she did not understand. The other cadets probably read these same books in half the time it took her. She looked out her window at the stars and found the tiny dot that was Earth. Her family was down there, probably sleeping since it was nighttime in her home city. Her parents had been so proud when she was accepted to the academy. Her little brother had told all his friends that his sister was going to be a space warrior. Maya wondered what they would think if they could see her now, struggling with basic lessons and being mocked by beings who thought humans were too primitive to belong in civilized space. She had always been confident and strong back home, but here she felt small and stupid. A message appeared on her room's communication screen. It was from Instructor Haven, informing all cadets that tomorrow they would begin practical combat simulations. Each cadet would face computer-controlled opponents in holographic environments that tested their fighting skills. Maya read the message twice, then closed her textbook and lay down on her bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and probably new humiliations. But she had not come this far to give up now. Her grandfather had always told her that the Rodriguez family never quit, no matter how hard things got. She fell asleep thinking about home and wondering if she would ever truly belong at the Galactic Naval Academy. 2 months had passed since Maya arrived at the Galactic Naval Academy, and things had not gotten much better. She had learned to ignore the whispers and stares from other cadets, but the loneliness was harder to bear. Even Ben Walker, the other human, had made it clear that he did not want to be associated with her failures. He sat with a group of popular cadets from various worlds and pretended not to see Maya when they passed in the halls. Maya had improved in some of her classes. Her scores in tactical theory were actually quite good, and she had learned to use the energy weapons well enough to hit targets consistently, but every small success was overshadowed by larger failures and the constant reminders that she did not belong. The worst part was the combat simulations. 3 times a week, the cadets were put into holographic training rooms where they faced computer-controlled enemies. The simulations tested everything they had learned about fighting, tactics, and survival. Maya's direct approach to combat usually worked, but it was considered crude and unsophisticated by the instructors. While other cadets used elegant energy attacks, mental powers, or advanced technology to defeat their opponents, Maya relied on speed, strength, and determination. She would charge straight at enemies, dodge their attacks through pure physical ability, and overwhelm them with rapid strikes. It was effective, but it was not pretty. Cadet Rodriguez continues to demonstrate the limitations of her species, Instructor Haven would say after reviewing her simulation recordings. Effective, perhaps, but lacking in finesse and strategic thinking. The other cadets had stopped laughing at Maya's techniques, but only because they had grown bored with mocking her. Zixara had found new targets for her sharp tongue, though. She still made comments about primitive Deathworlders whenever Maya was within earshot. Everything changed on a cold Tuesday morning when Commander Zethkar called all the first-year cadets to the main assembly hall. Maya sat in her usual spot at the back, trying to be invisible as always. The commander's 4 eyes swept across the crowd before he began to speak. "Cadets, you have been training for 2 months now. You have learned the basics of combat, tactics, and military protocol. The time has come for your first major test." The hall fell silent. Maya could hear her own heartbeat in the sudden quiet. "The ultimate combat trial has been used by this academy for over 300 years, Commander Zethkar continued. "It is the most challenging test a cadet can face. Every graduate of this academy has passed this trial, and many consider it the moment they truly became warriors." Maya felt her stomach clench with anxiety. She had heard older cadets mention the ultimate combat trial in hushed, respectful tones, but no one had ever explained what it involved. The trial takes place in our most advanced holographic arena, the commander explained. The computer will create a unique scenario for each cadet, designed to test every aspect of your training. You will face enemies, obstacles, and challenges that adapt to your abilities and exploit your weaknesses. Veltos raised his hand. Commander, what kind of enemies will we face? That depends on you, Commander Zethkar replied. The artificial intelligence controlling the simulation studies your previous performances and creates opponents specifically chosen to challenge your particular strengths and weaknesses. No two trials are ever exactly the same, Quindal asked, the question that was on everyone's mind. How long do we have to complete the trial? There is no time limit, the commander said. However, your performance will be judged not only on success or failure, but on efficiency, creativity, and adaptability. The trial ends when you have either completed all objectives or when the computer determines that you have failed. Maya's hands were shaking slightly. She had struggled with every aspect of training so far. How could she possibly pass a test designed to be the ultimate challenge? I should mention, Commander Zethkar added, that the current record for fastest completion of the ultimate combat trial is 8 minutes and 37 seconds. That record was set 43 years ago by Cadet Vorthak, who went on to become one of our most distinguished admirals. The cadets around Maya began whispering excitedly. 8.5 minutes seemed impossibly fast. Maya had never completed any training exercise in less than 15 minutes and usually took much longer than her classmates. The trials will begin tomorrow, the commander announced. You will be called individually in alphabetical order by family name. Use tonight to prepare yourselves mentally and physically. Remember that this trial is not just about combat skills. It tests your ability to think under pressure, adapt to unexpected situations, and demonstrate the qualities that make a true warrior. As the cadets filed out of the assembly hall, Maya heard conversations erupting all around her. Some cadets sounded excited, others nervous, but all of them seemed confident that they would pass. Maya felt like she might throw up. I wonder how long the human will last, she heard Zixara say to a group of her followers. I bet she gives up in the first 5 minutes. That's generous, replied another cadet. I don't think she'll last. 2 minutes once she realizes how outmatched she is. Maya walked quickly past them, her face burning with embarrassment and anger. She knew they were probably right. She had failed at everything else here. Why would this be any different? That evening, Maya sat in her room and tried to study, but she could not concentrate. Her mind kept wandering to all the ways she might fail the next day. She had never felt so alone or so unprepared for anything in her life. Around midnight, she gave up trying to sleep and walked to the Academy's observation deck. The huge windows looked out into space, showing stars and distant galaxies that humans had only recently learned existed. Maya often came here when she needed to think. She was surprised to find Ben Walker standing near one of the windows. He looked as nervous as she felt. Hi, Maya, he said quietly. Can't sleep either? No, she replied, walking over to stand next to him. I keep thinking about tomorrow. They stood in comfortable silence for a few minutes, both lost in their own thoughts. You know, Ben said finally, I've been watching your training sessions. The instructors keep saying your methods are primitive, but you actually complete the objectives faster than most cadets. Maya looked at him in surprise. Really? Yeah. You just do it differently than everyone expects. Everyone else here has special powers or advanced technology built into their biology. You have to rely on being human. Being human doesn't seem to count for much here, Maya said bitterly. Ben was quiet for a moment. My grandfather was in the military, too, he said. He always told me that humans became the dominant species on Earth, not because we were the strongest or the fastest, but because we were the most adaptable. We survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and every natural disaster the planet could throw at us. Maya thought about her own grandfather's stories about Earth's history. Humans had indeed survived things that would have destroyed most other species. The thing is, Ben continued, I don't think the aliens here really understand what it means to come from a death world. They think it makes us primitive, but maybe it actually makes us something else. What do you mean? I mean maybe being from Earth gives us abilities that the other species don't have. They've never had to fight for survival the way humans have. They don't know what it's like to be the underdog. Maya considered this. Earth was indeed a dangerous planet by galactic standards. Most worlds in the Alliance were peaceful places where the dominant species had evolved without major predators or environmental threats. Humans had evolved on a world where everything from the weather to the wildlife was trying to kill them. I still don't think I can pass this trial, Maya said. Maybe, Ben replied. But if you do fail, at least fail as a human. Don't try to fight like them. Fight like us. Maya nodded slowly. She had been trying so hard to fit in with the other cadets that she had forgotten what made humans special. Tomorrow she would stop trying to be something she was not. Tomorrow she would be herself. Maya woke up before her alarm went off. Her stomach felt like it was full of rocks and her hands were shaking as she got dressed in her academy uniform. Today was the day of the ultimate combat trial, and she was scheduled to go third, right, after two cadets whose names came before Rodriguez in the alphabet. She ate breakfast alone as usual, picking at a protein bar that tasted like cardboard. Around her, other first-year cadets talked in excited whispers about the upcoming trials. Some boasted about how quickly they would complete the test, while others discussed the advanced techniques they planned to use. I'm going to use my species' natural phase-shifting ability to confuse the computer, said one cadet whose body seemed to flicker in and out of existence. My telepathic power should allow me to predict the enemy's movements, added another whose large head indicated advanced mental abilities. Maya listened to their confident chatter and felt her anxiety grow worse. These cadets had special abilities that she could never match. They had been born with advantages that humans simply did not possess. At 8 o'clock, all the first-year cadets gathered outside the ultimate combat trial arena. The building was larger than any of the regular training facilities with thick walls and warning signs in multiple languages. Through the transparent aluminum windows, Maya could see the massive holographic projection system that would create her test environment. Commander Zethkar stood before the group, with several other instructors. His 4 eyes scanned the nervous cadets before he began to speak. Today you will face the greatest challenge in your training so far, he announced. Remember that this trial is not just about winning or losing. We are evaluating your tactical thinking, your ability to adapt under pressure, and your potential as future officers in the Galactic Navy. The commander gestured toward the arena entrance. Cadet Althman, you will go first. A tall, green-skinned cadet with 4 arms walked confidently into the arena. The doors closed behind him, and the observation deck filled with spectators. Maya joined the crowd of cadets, instructors, and senior students who had come to watch the trials. Through the reinforced windows, they could see Althman appear in what looked like a ruined city. Computer-generated enemies began attacking from multiple directions. The cadet used his 4 arms to wield different weapons simultaneously, while his natural armor protected him from enemy fire. It was an impressive display of coordinated combat. The trial lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, Althman had successfully completed all objectives, though he looked exhausted and had sustained several simulated injuries. The crowd applauded politely as he exited the arena. Adequate performance, Commander Zethkar noted. Next, Cadet Polandra. The second cadet was a floating, energy-based being who glowed with soft blue light. Her trial took place in what appeared to be a space station under attack. She used her ability to pass through solid matter and manipulate electrical systems to complete her objectives in 14 minutes. Again, the performance was competent but not exceptional. Then Maya heard her name called. Cadet Rodriguez, you're up. Maya's legs felt weak as she walked toward the arena entrance. Behind her she could hear whispers from the observation deck. This should be interesting, someone said. How long do you think she'll last? Asked another voice. I'm betting 5 minutes before she gives up, came the reply. Maya paused at the arena entrance and looked back at the crowd. Zixara was in the front row, her golden eyes gleaming with anticipation. Veltos floated nearby, his gills fluttering with what might have been excitement or nervousness. Even Ben Walker was there, though he looked away when Maya tried to catch his eye. The arena doors closed behind Maya with a heavy thud, and suddenly she was alone in a small gray room. A holographic display appeared in front of her showing the trial objectives. Neutralize all hostile targets, protect civilian populations, and secure 3 strategic locations within the test environment. Trial will begin in 10 seconds, announced a computer voice. Prepare yourself, Cadet Rodriguez. Maya took a deep breath and tried to remember what Ben had told her the night before. Stop trying to fight like the aliens. Fight like a human. She thought about her grandfather's stories, about Earth's history, about what it meant to be from a death world where everything was dangerous. Trial begins now. The gray room disappeared, replaced by a complex urban environment. Maya found herself standing on a rooftop overlooking a city under attack. Hostile forces were positioned throughout the area, civilians were trapped in several buildings, and the 3 strategic locations were marked by glowing beacons scattered across the battlefield. 4. Exactly 1 second. Maya stood perfectly still, but her mind was not idle. In that single second, her brain processed more information than any computer could calculate. She identified every enemy position, every escape route, every tactical advantage and disadvantage in the entire arena. This was not a learned skill or a special power. This was pure human survival instinct, developed over millions of years of evolution on a world where a moment's hesitation meant death. By the second, Maya was already moving. She did not run toward the nearest objective like most cadets would. Instead, she moved along a path that seemed random, but was actually perfectly calculated to maximize efficiency. She had unconsciously mapped out a route that would allow her to complete all objectives with the minimum amount of time and effort. Her movements were fluid and economical. There were no wasted motions, no hesitation, no complex energy manipulations that took time to charge up. Maya moved like what she was, a predator from a world where only the most efficient killers survived. In the 3rd second, she reached the first group of enemies. They were computer-generated soldiers with advanced weapons and tactical training. Against most cadets, they would have provided a significant challenge. Against Maya, they might as well have been standing still. She did not fight them the way the academy had taught her. She did not use proper form or approved techniques. Instead, she fought the way humans had always fought when their lives depended on it. She moved faster than the computer had calculated was possible, struck harder than the program had expected, and used angles of attack that the artificial intelligence had not anticipated. The enemies fell in rapid succession, each one neutralized with brutal efficiency. Maya did not pause to admire her work or celebrate small victories. She simply moved on to the next objective. The 4th second brought her to the first group of trapped civilians. While other cadets might have spent precious time analyzing the situation and planning a careful rescue, Maya simply grabbed the obstacles blocking their escape route and threw them aside with strength that surprised even her. The civilians were free and moving to safety before the computer had finished generating their rescue scenarios. By the 5th second, Maya had reached the 2nd strategic location. More enemies awaited her there, along with additional trapped civilians and environmental hazards that would have slowed down most cadets. Maya dealt with all of them simultaneously, moving through the challenges like water flowing around rocks. She was not thinking in the way the academy had taught her to think. She was not analyzing each problem and selecting appropriate responses from her training. Instead, she was operating on pure instinct, letting millions of years of evolution guide her actions. At exactly 6 seconds, Maya stood in the center of the 3rd strategic location. Every enemy had been neutralized, every civilian had been rescued. Every objective had been completed. The arena fell silent. The holographic environment flickered and disappeared, leaving Maya standing alone in the gray room. She was breathing normally and showed no signs of exertion or stress. For a moment, she wondered if something had gone wrong with the simulation. Then the arena doors opened, and she could hear the sound of complete silence from the observation deck. Maya walked out of the arena and looked up at the crowd of spectators. Every single being in the room was staring at her with expressions of shock, disbelief, and something that might have been fear. Commander Zethkar's 4 eyes were fixed on a display screen that showed the trial results. His crystalline features showed no emotion, but Maya could see his hands shaking slightly as he read the numbers. 6 seconds, he said, his voice carrying clearly in the absolute quiet. All objectives completed in 6 seconds. The silence stretched, on for what felt like forever. Then slowly the observation deck erupted into chaos. The chaos in the observation deck lasted for several minutes. Cadets shouted questions in dozens of languages, while instructors rushed to check the computer systems for errors. Maya stood at the arena entrance, watching the confusion she had caused, not sure what she was supposed to do next. Commander Zethkar raised his 4 hands for silence, and gradually the noise died down. His eyes remained fixed on Maya as he spoke to the crowd. The trial results have been verified by 3 separate computer systems, he announced. Cadet Rodriguez completed all objectives in exactly 6 seconds, setting a new Academy record. The previous record of 8 minutes and 37 seconds has been significantly surpassed. A new wave of whispers swept through the crowd. Maya could see cadets turning to look at her with expressions she had never seen before. The mockery and dismissal were gone, replaced by something that looked like fear or awe. Zixara pushed through the crowd to get closer to the windows overlooking the arena. Her golden eyes were wide with disbelief. "That's impossible," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "The computer must have malfunctioned. No one can complete the ultimate combat trial in 6 seconds. Instructor Haven, the 6-armed hexapod who had often criticized Maya's techniques, stepped forward with a datapad in his hands. "I have reviewed the complete recording of Cadet Rodriguez's trial," he said slowly. "Every movement has been analyzed. Every action has been verified. There was no malfunction." He paused and looked directly at Maya. "What we witnessed was the most efficient combat performance in the history of this academy." Maya felt her cheeks burning as hundreds of alien eyes stared at her. She had never been the center of attention like this, and she did not know how to handle it. "Cadet Rodriguez," Commander Zethkar said, his voice cutting through the renewed whispers. "Report to my office immediately." Maya nodded and made her way through the crowd of spectators. As she passed, she could hear fragments of conversation in various languages. She did not understand most of the words, but the tone was completely different from anything she had heard before. The alien sounded respectful, curious, and maybe a little afraid. Ben Walker caught her arm as she passed. "Maya," he said quietly, "that was incredible. I've never seen anything like that." "I just did what felt natural," Maya replied, still not sure she understood what had happened. "That's exactly what I mean," Ben said with a grin. "You stopped trying to be like them and started being like us." Commander Zethkar's office was located in the highest tower of the academy, with windows that looked out over the entire space station. Maya had never been there before, and she was impressed by the size and luxury of the room. The walls were covered with awards, photographs, and artifacts from dozens of different worlds. The commander gestured for Maya to sit in a chair across from his massive desk. His 4 eyes studied her carefully before he began to speak. "Cadet Rodriguez, in my 40 years at this academy, I have never seen a performance like yours today. I need to understand what happened in that arena." Maya shifted uncomfortably in her chair. "I'm not sure I can explain it, sir. I just stopped thinking so much and let my instincts take over." "Your instincts," the commander repeated thoughtfully. "Tell me about your home world. What is daily life like on Earth?" Maya spent the next hour describing life on her dangerous planet. She told him about predators that could kill humans in seconds, weather that could destroy entire cities, and diseases that had wiped out millions of people throughout history. She explained how humans had survived not by being the strongest or fastest, but by being the most adaptable and efficient. "We had to learn to think quickly," she said. "On Earth, if you hesitate for even a second, you might die. So we developed instincts that help us process information and react faster than we can consciously think." Commander Zethkar listened intently, occasionally asking questions about specific aspects of human evolution and survival. When Maya finished, he was quiet for a long time. "I am beginning to understand," he said finally. "Most species in the galaxy evolved on worlds that were relatively safe. They had time to develop advanced mental abilities, energy manipulation, and sophisticated technologies. But humans evolved under constant threat. You developed something that we have forgotten: the ability to act with perfect efficiency under extreme pressure." He stood up and walked to one of the windows. "The galaxy is not as peaceful as we like to pretend, Cadet Rodriguez. There are threats out there that our advanced civilizations are not prepared to face. Perhaps we need warriors who think like humans." Over the following days, word of Maya's performance spread throughout the entire academy and beyond. Military officers from across the galaxy requested copies of her trial recording. Scientists wanted to study human combat instincts. Even diplomats began asking questions about Earth's potential military contributions to the Galactic Alliance. The change in how other cadets treated Maya was immediate and dramatic. Zixara, who had been her most vocal critic, approached her in the dining hall 3 days after the trial. "Cadet Rodriguez," she said formally, "I owe you an apology. I misunderstood what it means to be from a death world. I thought it made you primitive, but I was wrong. It made you something we are not." Maya looked up from her protein bar, surprised by the serpentine cadet's serious tone. "What do you mean?" "It made you a perfect warrior," Zixara replied. "On my world, we are the apex predators, but we hunt for food and territory. You come from a world where everything hunts everything, where survival requires constant vigilance and instant reaction. We developed hunting skills, but you developed war skills." Other cadets began approaching Maya with requests for training, advice. Veltos wanted to learn how to react faster in combat situations. Quindal asked if Maya could teach her the human concept of fighting dirty. Even cadets from other training groups sought her out for tips on improving their efficiency. Maya found herself becoming not just accepted but sought after. Instructors began asking for her input on combat scenarios. Her tactical suggestions were taken seriously and often implemented in training exercises. The Academy's fighting curriculum was modified to include lessons on Death World combat principles. Ben Walker became a frequent visitor to Maya's room, and they would spend hours talking about Earth and what it meant to be human in a galaxy full of more advanced species. "I've been thinking about what you did in that trial," he said one evening, as they sat in the observation lounge. "You didn't just beat the record. You showed them that humans bring something to the galaxy that no other species has." "What's that?" Maya asked. "We're survivors," Ben replied. "Every other species out there evolved to fit into their environment. Humans evolved to survive in any environment. That makes us different from everyone else." Maya nodded, finally understanding what had happened to her during the trial. She had stopped trying to be like the other cadets and had instead embraced what made her human. Her efficiency, her adaptability, and her survival instincts were not weaknesses to be overcome. They were strengths that could not be taught or replicated. Months later, when the Academy's first semester ended, Maya graduated at the top of her class. Her final scores were the highest in Academy history, and she received offers from every major military unit in the Galactic Alliance. But more importantly, she had changed how the galaxy viewed humans. Earth was no longer seen as a primitive world whose inhabitants were lucky to be included in galactic civilization. Instead, it was recognized as a source of warriors unlike any other species could produce. The ultimate combat trial was renamed the Rodriguez Trial in her honor, though her 6-second record remained unbroken. Future cadets would study her techniques and try to understand the mindset that allowed such perfect efficiency. And throughout the galaxy, military leaders began to realize that sometimes the most advanced technology and the most sophisticated powers could not replace the simple, deadly effectiveness of a human who had learned to survive on a world where everything was trying to kill them. Maya Rodriguez had shown them that being from a death world was not a disadvantage. It was the ultimate advantage.